The Silver Island. Tales for Grown-ups, with not necessarily happily ever after. Tale first. Love. Anyone who has ever loved knows that love kills, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, sometimes in pleasure, but more often in the agony of unbearable pain. The victim of love loses the ability to think rationally. Trying to predict your own death is pointless. Day 30th. A translucent drop of morning dew balanced gracefully on the thin edge of a bright emerald leaf. Oblong in shape, it hung so low as if created not from water, but viscous, liquid crystal mass. It stretched out whimsically and unnaturally, as if defying gravity. The drop was barely holding onto the delicate velvet surface, ready to fall down at any moment. An instant later, it broke away and fell, transforming itself into a glistening sphere, reminiscent of an alien spacecraft preparing for landing. Gleaming in the soft darkness of the disappearing night a few seconds later, it reached its destination and fell onto the surface of skin. Upon collision, it broke into several small puddles, spraying around a myriad of microscopic crystals. The drop landed on the man sleeping under the tree. Cool wetness of dew spread over the warm surface of his closed eyelid and rolled right under his lashes. The man shuddered slightly and suddenly woke up. The awakening brought a feeling of bliss, as sweet as the dream itself, which did not seem interrupted but instead transitioned into the same sweet reality. He opened his eyes. He woke up utterly happy, sensing wetness on the skin that he believed were tears of joy shed in his dream. He wiped them away, smearing the dew on his face. The moisture quickly dissipated without a trace. Inside, everything bubbled and overcame him with emotion. He wanted to cry and laugh, rejoice and scream from the overwhelming delight. Carried by wings of love, he could easily fly into the sky and soar high in heavens. But the desire to stay in his den was stronger. Dawn was breaking. From his sheltered vantage point under the giant tree, he could see the silhouettes of low mountains. In their magnificent splendor, they surrounded the island on three sides. Rolling gardens, as thick as canvas, draped the foot of the mountains. The azure sea, bathing the island, merged with the dark blue sky and faded away in the twilight of pre-dawn haze. The monotonous sound of the breaking waves was soothing. The makeshift bed was well placed at the base of the most extraordinary tree on the island. The tree resembled a colossus and has been growing on the island from time immemorial. Its trunk looked so massive that it would take several people if someone decided to embrace it. It was the oldest and most whimsical of all the trees that grew on the island, as if no other than the genius and madman Salvador Dali himself imagined and then successfully embodied one of his most extravagant ideas. The tree giant, fed in abundance by the fruitful island's soil and climate, grew unimpeded in all directions, up, down, across, having created a sturdy pedestal for itself from own powerful root system. The older the tree became, the more gargantuan roots stretched out, raising the tree higher and higher on the hill. The gnarly roots not only went deep, but also partially protruded from the ground, as if running out of space beneath the surface. Like an enormous octopus with hundreds of massive yet nimble tentacles spreading in all directions, the roots crisscrossed and intertwined with each other, creating a bumpy surface covered with shallow hollows and grooves around the giant trunk. The miracle tree occupied the very center of the island, raising above as a ruler on a centuries-old self-erected throne. Due to the unusual pale blue color that covered the roots and the slopes of the hill, one could think from a distance that the sea itself surrounded the tree and raised it on the crest of a wave. This incredible illusion was created by the moss that covered the entire surface of the hill. It was soft, fluffy, flawlessly turquoise in color. Silky and soft to the touch, the moss could easily serve as a soft down bed. Delicate particles of azure moss enveloped the body and lulled the mind as soon as the tired one found himself in their arms. Long ago, the man accidentally spent the night under the tree for the first time, and upon awakening, realized he wanted to stay there forever. And so he did, by making his den in soft and comfortable hollows dressed with velvet moss. The rest of the island, for the most part, was a plain surrounded by mountains and cliffs. In contrast to the turquoise hill in the center, the flat surface of the island seemed almost white, covered with a silvery ash blanket. Because of this, even on the starless nights, the island has never been truly dark. The silver dust, shimmering in the moonlight, turned any impenetrable night into twilight. And with the onset of the starry season, the island acquired a divine glow. The black sky full of stars, the magical light of the moon, and the shimmer of the silver surface merged into enigmatic silver glow that enveloped the island at night for the entire season. The past night was one of those, white, full of wicked shimmering light. The young man loved every single one of them, especially moments before sunrise. The twilight, lasting all night long, added mystery and enchantment to the hour before dawn. His beloved was still fast asleep, minutes before her awakening in the magical glow of the passing nighttime. He cherished the visage of the perfection and beauty of her body curves. He didn't want her to see how intently and lustfully he was exploring her magnificent forms. He didn't want her to feel bashful. This morning was special, as exciting as the ritual that made him tremble every time. He gently released her from his embrace and moved a little further away from the warm body so that he could see her in full glory. He lay on his side, resting the head on the bent arm. Slightly squinting through eyelashes, he examined the flawless contour of her body. She slept on her back. All he saw was perfect shapes illuminated by a silvery glow. He could not look away. Far in the distance, the blurry outlines of the mountain peaks were catching first light of slowly approaching dawn. He began his visual journey by examining her magnificent profile. First, he looked at the flawless line of the nose. Then his gaze slid further to the succulent shape of half-parted, full lips. Her breathing was deep and calm. He examined her graceful neck. Then his gaze stopped for a long time on the hills of her voluptuous, full breasts. Her chest barely moved with each breath, first rising, blocking the sight of the mountains visible at a distance for a moment, then going down, thrilling his mind and awakening carnal desires. Hot waves of arousal enveloped him, excited him, but he did not lose his composure. As if a hungry male sinking his teeth into flesh, he continued staring at her seductive breasts. The girl's skin was white, almost transparent, porcelain-like. Smooth lines outlined the shape of full rounded breasts and then turned into towering dark brown nipple areola. Nipples were completely relaxed, almost flat, free from passion and arousal. He wanted to squeeze them madly between his fingers and make her moan in sweet pain. He had an imposing desire to pounce and grab them with his teeth. He wanted to feel them harden in his mouth. Suddenly, as if sensing his secret thirst, a tiny drop of dew fell from above, landing right on the top of her nipple. He narrowed his eyes and, looking through the transparent drop like through a magnifying glass, he saw the dancing light of the sun rising far beyond a mountain range. The sight was beautiful, but he was not interested in anything but gently rising breasts right before his eyes. He devoured the mesmerizing motion, watching how the nipple erected and hardened after contact with the cool drop of water. It seemed to be playing with him, teasing him. "I'm ready for you. Just take me in your mouth." It became as hard as his own flesh. The erection of the nipple aroused him. His heart began to pound. Blood boiled inside and rolled over him as a heat wave. With every day, it grew more difficult to control his desires. His body wanted her more than anything. Last evening, he struggled to control his temptations, as he knew the flame of his desire was about to become a raging fire that would be unstoppable. The drop of dew began its slow descent to the base of the hardened nipple that grew before his eyes. Moving lazily, it sparkled with all the colors of the rainbow in the rays of the rising sun. He loved his goddess with all his heart. The end of the first part. Please subscribe to get notified about the next part release. Thank you for your time. Best wishes.